Good morning, and it's another beautiful Wednesday morning from the studio of JDN Radio 101.5 FM. Today, the 8th of April, 2026. And on the newspaper review, I have 3 dailies. And my name is Abiodun Samson. So do well to stay tuned because I will be dishing out the stories that made it to the front page of the dailies for this morning. And I will be starting with the Punch newspaper for this morning with this headline that says ADC woes worsen. State chairman block unveil caretaker committee. 5 terrorists jailed. Federal government expended 500 suspect trial. Oil shock. World Bank predicts 3.1 inflation rise for Nigeria. And also on the Punch, doctors end strike. Hospitals open. NCC orders telecoms to compensate subscriber. And moving forward this morning to the nation with this headline that says ADC crisis, David Mark-led NWC state chairman clash. Edun, Nigerians strong to withstand shock gains of war in Iran. Tinubu's visit, how Lagosians can avoid traffic by government. And also ABC of the ADC crisis. Article, a last-ditch effort in ADC. Those are the headlines that made it to the front page of The Nation for this morning. Nigerian Tribune for this morning with this headline that says trial of 500 terrorism suspects begins in Abuja, with this rider that says 227 suspects arraigned, court sentenced 4 to various jail terms, trial to last 1 week. And also on the front page, ADC crisis deepens as new caretaker leadership emerges. CSO decries deepening insecurity and rising poverty, says Nigeria at the brink of collapse. Obi seeks clarity on 10.6 trillion naira approved for power sector debt in 2 years. And also on the Nigerian Tribune for this morning, 2027 adoption of consensus candidate triggers controversies in Oyo APC. Olubado inaugurates Ibadan Community Security Guards. Daily aspirin do not harm than good. And that is on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune for this morning, the 8th of April, 2026. you're just tuning in, the Studio Newspaper Review on your dial 101.5 FM, broadcasting for us located at 1 Short Street, Joyce B Road, Okeado, in the city of Ibadan, Nigeria. And I have this headline that says, ADC wars worsen, State Chairman block unveil caretaker committee. Some state chairman of the African Democratic Congress on Tuesday claimed that they are taking control of the party following the removal of the David Mark leadership by the Independent National Electoral Commission. The chairman claimed to be representing 25 states and backed by the ADC 2023 presidential candidate Dubeme Kachiko stated that they constituted a National Executive Committee of the ADC and are taking over the party leadership. The group unveiled the Kogi State Chairman Kingsley Ogar as the new chairman in a move that signals a significant shift amid the party's ongoing internal crisis. Addressing a press conference in Abuja, the Abia State Chairman Don Obina explained that the NEC endorsed Mark's removal as the party chairman. However, the David Mark-led leadership of the party has dismissed the group, alleging that they have been sponsored by elements of the ruling All Progressive Congress. Publicity Secretary of the ADC, Bolaji Abdullahi, speaking to a TV station, Politics Today, on Tuesday night, says the same force allegedly working to destabilize the party had instigated some state chairman against it. And the story continues on the Punch newspaper for this morning. On the Punch for this morning, 5 terrorists jailed. Federal government expedites 500 suspect trials. The Federal High Court in Abuja on Tuesday sentenced 5 terrorism convicts to various jail terms, including 20 years imprisonment. The court also remanded another suspect who pleaded not guilty to terrorism charges, as the federal government began a fresh phase in the mass trial of 500 suspects. Justice M.O. Olajumo remanded Babagana Umar in the custody of the Department of State Service after he denied a 3-count charge bordering on alleged suspect for Boko Haram. Umar was accused of knowingly rendering support for supplying spare parts to Boko Haram, as well as supplying firewood to the terrorist group in Sambisa Forest in 2022, contrary to Section 13 of the Terrorism Prohibition and Prevention Act 2022. He was also alleged to have had information about the whereabouts and activities of the Boko Haram, which would have led to apprehension and persecution of these persons, but did not disclose to any law enforcement agency, contrary to Section 16 of the Act. The court adjourned Umar's trial to the next sitting. In a separate case before the same court, Justice Olajuwon convicted Yusuf Tugar Abacha to 20 years imprisonment after he pleaded guilty to professing membership of Boko Haram, withholding information about a member of a group, and participating in attacks. And the story continues on the Punch newspaper for this morning. On the Punch, oil shock, World Bank predict 3.1 inflation rise for Nigeria. The World Bank has warned that the ongoing surge in global oil prices could directly add around 3.1 percentage points to Nigerians' headline inflation as rising fuel costs ripples through the economy. The bank highlighted the widening gap between locally refined petrol and imported fuel as a key factor driving inflationary pressures in the downstream sectors. This was contained in its latest Nigerian development update released in Abuja on Tuesday, where it noted that the current pricing structures has created a gap between the locally refined fuel and imports parity prices. It also stated that the imported petrol is about 12% cheaper than fuel supplied by the Dangote Petroleum Refinery, reflecting distortion in the domestic pricing structures amid soaring global crude prices. Dangote Refinery, the main supplier of refined petrol, after the regulator ceased issuing import license in early 2026, raised the ex-depot price of premium motor spirit to about 1,275 naira per litre as of March 23, 2026, compared to an estimated import parity price of around 1,122 naira per litre, implying a cost differential of roughly 12%. The World Bank says this development reflects broader pressures in the energy market following the Middle East conflict, warning that an increase in oil price to about $80 per barrel, representing a 31.1% rise relative to pre-conflict level, could significantly worsen inflationary pressures. And the story continues on the Punch newspaper for this morning. Doctors and strike hospitals reopened. Patients and medical staff across Nigeria heaved a sigh of relief on Tuesday following the suspension of the planned nationwide strike by the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors. At Just University Teaching Hospitals and Plateau State Specialist Hospitals, patients and staff expressed relief at the reprieve. Even before the suspension of the short-lived strike, services at the Ekiti State University Teaching Hospital were largely uninterrupted. At the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, medical activities continued even as the strike loomed, although outpatient services were briefly affected. The NAD was set to begin an indefinite industrial actions on Tuesday over delayed salaries, unpaid allowances, and other welfare concerns affecting its members. However, following the high-level government intervention, including engagement by the Vice President Kassim Shettima, the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Ali Pate, and the Ministers of Labour and Employment, Dr. Mohamed Younger, NAD, on Tuesday morning, announced it was suspending the strike, giving the federal government a 2-week ultimatum to resolve the outstanding issues. And the story continues on the Punch newspaper for this morning. And moving forward to the nation with this headline that says, Edu, Nigerians strong to withstand shock, gains to war in Iran. Nigeria has positioned itself to reap the benefits from rising in global oil prices while carefully managing the attendant risks. Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, said yesterday, speaking in Abuja at the World Bank presentation of the development update on Nigeria. Edun said the federal government plans to maximize revenue gains from higher crude oil prices as it confronts the wider economic pressures triggered by the global tension, particularly the ongoing crisis in the Middle East. According to him, Nigerian position as an oil-producing country places it in a unique situation to simultaneously gain and lose. He said while higher oil prices offer increased government revenue, they also push up costs across the economy, especially in energy and food production. He said, we are on both sides of the equation, Edun said. He's explaining that rising global prices were already feeding into domestic inflation. The minister pointed out the higher gas prices have pushed up cost of fertilizers, which in turn raises food prices and worsens the burdens on households. And the story continues on The Nations for this morning. And moving to the Nigerian Tribune for this morning, Olubado inaugurates Ibadan Guard Security. A former Minister of Industry, Chief Onikepo Akonde, has underscored the relevance of the Olubado Economic and Investment Committee and the newly inaugurated Ibadan Security Guards to the industrial growth of Ibadan land. Akonde, in her address at the inauguration of the security outfit, which is aimed at complementing the effort of the police and other security agencies at the Olubadan Palace, Okiaremo, on Tuesday, said the committee has the target of attracting local and foreign investment to the land. The former minister, who also doubles as the chairman of the committee, submitted that investment drives without provision of adequate security will be a nullity. This, according to her, necessitated the establishment of the Ibadan Security Guards to complement the effort of the relevant security agencies. She lauded the initiative of Oba Ladoja in setting up the committee, adding that it will reshape the economy of the ancient town as well as provide employment opportunities for the teeming youth. This initiative is visionary. It recognizes that traditional institutions must not only preserve culture, but also actively shape economic destiny. And the story continues on the Nigerian Tribune for this morning. And as you know that on the newspaper review, we want you to be part of the conversation in 2 to 3 minutes. And the number to call is 07048 001-015 or 08022102163. And also you can drop your comment on Facebook and we are going to be reading it out. So from our Dr. Mrs. Olebara from Owerri, she said there is no way we can have one party system in this country, because if we do, nobody will question the government of the day and hold it accountable. Without opposition, democracy is meaningless. We are in a serious trouble in this country. And she also went further and said a situation where the ruling party tries to silence and destroy opposition, pushing the nation to a one-party state, it becomes a dictatorship and no longer democracy. Shall we just be watching these people destroy our hard-earned democracy? Okay, thank you so much for this valuable contribution, Dr. Mrs. Olibara from Owerri State. We value your contribution every day and every time on the newspaper review on JDN Radio 101.5 FM. And you can also as well drop your opinion about any headline that triggers your own contributions and your own input to everything that we've read for this morning. And on that note, I will be wrapping it up this morning on the newspaper review on JDN Radio 101.5 FM. Do not forget that if you want to also be part of it, the Yoruba language translation of the newspaper review will be coming up shortly on this dial in the next 6 minutes on Afoniruyi, and that is that you should not take it away from that dial. I remain Abiodo Samson, and the newspaper review continues tomorrow, same time, 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. on your dial JDN Radio 101.5 FM, the only radio station that is broadcasting for all.